let's assemble our bean. We've got our little stubby feet, we've got our I-cord, we've got our little hands, not looking like much right now, but we will be looking like a lot shortly. So we've got our bean here, and this pearl bump indicates the top of the bean that we will be attaching the I-cord to shortly. So this is the top, and this is the bottom where we're going to attach the feet. The feet are going to be sort of centered on the last and first stockinette rounds here on the body. So if you can see where the increase or decrease lines stop, if you then attach them so that they are just outside that line. So here again is that increase line. Here's our little bean. And again, that little increase or decrease line. We're just going to use that end of that line as the place to line up the outside of the foot. So at the end of this line is where this foot would go. At the end of this line is where this foot would go. But so that's our indications, like in terms of side to side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to attach them 10 stitches below. So that's our up-down orientation. So this is where we attach the safety eyes. So now we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can never do it sideways. I actually have to go this way. So let's do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this here, this is the row of stitching where we're going to attach our feet. So I'm going to need this needle, so I'm going to replace this with a DPN just so that I have a bit of a marker in terms of where we're going. I'm going to thread the yarn onto the yarn needle. I've left this foot quite stubby and unstuffed. I found it looked really cute and did exactly what I wanted it to. It just sort of pokes out from underneath the body. If you want to try stuffing it, just be careful how much you stuff it and maybe just pin it on first and see if it makes your bean rock back too much. If you overstuff, and then depending on where you place the feet, you may find that your bean is not sort of wanting to stand the way you want it to. It will be more like a rocking chair and less like it is standing. Especially since, because with the bean, it's such a low stable shape that I didn't put any weighted stuffing in. So there is nothing sort of helping this line be the bottom with weight. So just be careful as you experiment. So I'm just going to move this over so that I can see where that line ends. So with the edge of the foot in line with the end of the decrease or increase line here, which is where we're at, and then with the bottom of the foot in line with this 10th row column of stitching down, we're now just going to use whip stitch. So I'm going to grab under and go through both layers of the foot, under, go through both layers of the foot, which is why we don't need to close it when we make it, because we're closing it right now. And I'm just going to work my way across that opening. One tip is don't worry about the ends to start, just leave that there, and then you still have the ability to undo this and make decisions down the road. If you like the way it looks or not, you can undo your foot and move it, or maybe you want your foot like facing out a little bit, or maybe you want them facing in a little bit. Experiment with how you want it to look, but don't quite lock this in until you've got both on and you like both of them. All right, so this is the way I want the toy to look. Now, if this is going to be a decoration, the weight of the bean is probably going to do what we need to do in terms of keeping this from flapping up. However, if you don't want it to flap up, or you think or it's going to be a toy, what you can do with the end right now is you can actually go and tack it down sort of midway up that flat section when we were knitting the toy before we did the increases. So if I insert the yarn needle up and into the foot just to travel over inside. And if I then go down through the foot, making sure to get some of the surface of the toy so that I'm getting the fabric of the lighter color underneath, and I go like that, that is going to keep it from flapping too open. And depending on how you want to do this, you could do like an X shape or just do one little tack. It's really up to you. If this is a toy, you are going to want to knot this end before you bury it. So after we've tacked it down a little bit up this straight section, you're going to want to do a knot. Go under a leg of a stitch. You're going to want a little loop like that. You're going to go through it once, and then you're going to go through it twice. My end is so short I can barely do this, but we can still make it happen. We're going to do that. Then we go through, we make it as tight as we can. We're going to pull on this end, and then we're going to pull on this end, and then with this end, I'm going to use my fingernail and just get it as close and as tight as I can. Then I'm going to go back down through the foot and pull. And I'm going to pull to try to pull that knot inside of our foot fabric. Pull it out, snip it nice and close, and it will disappear inside. And we now have our feet. Let's do our hands next. You can do this in any order. We could do the top if you wanted. I just think I'm gonna, we'll do the hands first. All right, so you're going to have 4 of these. You'll have 2 smaller ones and 2 bigger ones. I just tied mine together after I made them so that I could remember which is which. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to attach them just forward of that center of the either the increase or the decrease that we had. And we're going to do them just forward of that. We'll attach the smaller one up above and the lower one, or the larger one below, and it will just look like a cute little growth or a little beginning of a leaf or hands, depending on what our imagination wants us to be thinking about. All right, so I'm going to go once through with one end, then I'm going to thread the other end on, and then I'm going to have a look at where I went through. And what I want to do is kind of come through very close to that, because then I can tie a knot already, and then we know that that's secure. Knot that, and we can just bury those ends inside our bean. And then when we are dealing with the ends of the larger part of the hand, we can actually use that end to deal with orientation and the like. So let's just bury this end here. All right, so we did our knot, we've done this, we've got our 2 ends buried inside the stuffing. And now I'm just going to pull these a little bit tight, snug, snip, snip, they disappear inside the bean, never to be seen again, and our small part of our hand is attached. It's kind of floppy because we just went through once, but as we do the bigger one, like I said, we are going to deal with that. And of course, this is just my way of doing this. And this is my first toy with this kind of an appendage, so I'm kind of making it up as I go along. And if you have a better suggestion, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to see your versions. Please make comments. Please post pictures. Come to the Imagine Landscapes Ravelry group, and we all get smarter together. All right, so I've gone one end through nice and close to where that small one was attached. Now I'm going to do the other end through, close to but not identical path, just to make the knot. Side by side there. We'll tie a knot, but we won't bury the ends right away. So let's once, and then we'll do again. what we are now going to do is see how these are kind of like separate and they can separate. We're going to use whichever end is longer. We're going to use that as our tidying up and securing end. All right, so let's first make sure that these two are buddied right up next to each other. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the bigger of the two parts of the hands and then through the smaller of the two parts of the hands. I'm going to pay attention to the orientation because I want them to have the circles forward. So I am going through them so that I keep them aligned, like so that the narrow parts are aligned. So I've gone through here and then through here with that, and we'll just stitch them together. See what happens when we do that. How does that look? Is that firm enough? I think that's going to be pretty good. If this was going to be a toy, I would probably do that a few extra times. This stitch here is kind of loose and floppy, so I can even use this moment to kind of come through and around and tack that floppier stitch down. When you are finishing up a toy, you have a real chance to like fix some mistakes. Even like if there's an uneven stitch, you can go back in through and do a duplicate stitch. You can do a lot when you're finishing with these ends. All right, so now I'm just going to bring my needle through, and I'm just going to tack it down in a couple places here in the front, because right now it's not very stable this way. So we're just going to go through the hand part and through the body part, stabilize that there, maybe do that again here, through and through. Then we'll do the same thing in the little part of the hand, through here and then through the fabric. And then that is oriented the way I want it. It looks the way I want it to. And so we can now get rid of the ends. If it's a decoration, you can just plunge the yarn through and deal with it. If it's a toy, obviously we're going to want to secure it a little more carefully. So bringing it to the back where this yarn is already still waiting, we can do another knot. Once, twice, and now we can bury those ends and deal with them. And that's how we attach the hands.